We'll keep letting people in as they join, but I'm conscious of your time, so I'm glad to just get started. This session is being recorded, so you will all get a recording afterwards, so you can watch it again. If there are any questions that you might have when we are going through the content, feel free to just jot them down in the chat. I will try not to interrupt the flow when I'm explaining, but we have left quite a bit of time for the Q&A at the end of the session. So if there is something that pops to mind, feel free to jot it down in the chat as you remember it, otherwise you might not remember. And then we will go through all the questions, and we already have some questions that we have been gathering because some people aren't being able to attend live. Hi everyone, hello, welcome. So the ones who can't attend live, they knew from the registration that they can watch the recording, and they did pre-send some questions. So at the end, we'll go through any question you might have. There are no silly questions, if anything. So because the level is beginner, and we're not going through anything that is technical or difficult. As you might know me, I hate jargon with a passion, and I really believe that it can be a sort of fog screen to hide some things that we don't want to be very clear. So everything will be explained in layman's terms, but if there's anything that you don't understand or you haven't met before, you're curious to ask, the only silly questions are the ones that are not asked. So feel free to, use me. I'm here and you can ask anything at any time. So I think I can start sharing my screen and there we go. Here we are, and start with the slides, and you should all be able to see them as they arrive. So the core of the session today is to explain what actually makes a difference in terms of websites ranking now. Because things are changing, and they're changing quite dramatically this last few year and a half, I would say, with the incoming of AI. So many things have changed inside Google and in the way the whole internet is responding. And you will see some of the things that have always been existing, because some of the basics haven't changed. But there are some things that have. So we'll go through a little bit of what's still valid, at least the very basics, and what needs to be changed now. The interesting thing is that you might not necessarily want to be doing any of these things, because I know that you all come from very different backgrounds. So this is not necessarily meant to be a DIY session. So yes, there are moments in which you will understand how to do some things if you want. But even if you don't want, because you don't have time, you can't be bothered, you'd rather prefer letting somebody else do it. I believe it's really important to empower people with knowledge. So knowing how these things work can help you understand what needs to be done, why, what somebody's doing for you if they are, and why some things should be done instead of others. So I believe it's really, really empowering for you. Now, I believe most of you know me. I've been doing this job for a long time. And if I stop back thinking of when I started, I feel a little bit old. It's getting near to 14 years that I've been doing SEO. So I've seen all the possible changes in this industry, including the very big popular algorithm updates that changed the web, the panda, the penguin, all of those ones. And again, seeing through all of these phases and changes has helped having a little bit of an eagle eye approach. The company is an SEO agency only, meaning that we don't do anything else. SEO is not a little part of the wider range of activities that we do. As an agency, we only optimize websites, which makes us really laser focused, each of us, into the various things that we can do. Now, we are starting with a bit of theory. Now, how does a search engine work? Now, search engines, you can imagine Google as the biggest one, and we will go in a little bit as to there are others and so on. There are three main elements in that. Think of the index as the biggest library that you can ever imagine, full of websites, all the websites of the world and all the web pages of each of the sites. So just imagine the amount, the vastity of this space. Then there are the crawler bots, spider bots. You might have heard them in many ways. They are little programs, bots, that keep constantly crawling this vast immensity of web space to find out all the website and the web pages. And we will see a little bit how this works. And then there is the algorithm. The algorithm is that system that is being set up inside of the search engine to make sure that there is the best possible relevance between somebody at one end of the world searching for something and being presented with the list of the best possible results. And if you think of the immensity of the amount of possible choices that they are spoiled for, then it becomes really crucial to make sure that these are the very best options for them. So the algorithm will somehow evaluate the possible options and set them in a sort of priority order, those ranking positions. This is how it works, and it has always been worked. There are little changes that we will see in a little moment. As for SEO, search engine optimization is the science that tends to have an impact on the algorithm, as in we are very partial to our websites and our clients, and we want, if possible, our websites and our clients to rank better in this list. So how can we influence these ranking positions? We need to do it, first of all, because as you definitely might imagine, SEO is a zero-sum type of game, meaning that if somebody gets to rank in those top 10, let's say, ranking positions, which again is changing a little bit, but it means that somebody else is being pushed down because there are only 10 spaces up there. So if you end up there, it's because you are outranking somebody else. You're pushing somebody down. So being in those positions means that you are being better than your competitors. It's a competitive game. It's a very competitive art. That also makes it really important to make sure you're competing against the right type of other websites, because if you're trying to compete against somebody who's not really competitive for you, if you're setting the bar a little bit too high, it's like when you're running a race and you're trying to race against thousands of other runners instead of doing a more local race and you're trying to outrun only your real competitors. So that gets to an important point that we need to be aware when we're trying to rank a website, is finding out who are your real competitors. So if you want to be ranking for some sort of keywords, first thing to become aware of is who else is now currently ranking for those. So at least you know who you have to beat, and you become aware of who is your competition. At that moment, then all the possible actions can be done. And what are the things that we can do actively to make a change, to make a difference. Now, I try when I do these training sessions to make people memorize SEO as 3 letters, and there are 3 main elements to keep in mind. You can imagine it as a triangle, as a 3-legged stool, however works for you. 3 main things to keep in mind: the code of the website, so how the site has been built, and the technical assets behind it, because when the crawler bots are crawling the website, they're not seeing it as you would do, all colorful and full of colors and design. They will see it as boring strings of code, but they are programmed to look into that, and they have a specific programming into trying to understand what's in there. Imagine a bot as having a checklist. So when it's encountering a website, it's got a list of things to check what a site is about, to make an association between what somebody might be searching for, and your site could be a good possible result, a good possible match. So they will have, for example, in the checklist, let's check what it's in the title, what's in the main heading, what's in the images, in the content, in the URLs, and all of these things will give a signal, a ranking signal. If these signals are kind of coherent and make sense to be associated with certain keywords, the match can happen and you can be displayed if all the ifs are working. So this is the content element. This is what the crawler bots will find in your pages. So it becomes particularly important to know that we are writing content in a certain way. The kind of balance is juggling all the possible boxes. So we are pleasing the readers, having a nice converting commercial tone of voice, and we are also pleasing the algorithms, making sure that we have the right keywords in the right spaces. And there are some more things to be considered. So what's in the content of your site, how your site is coded, because there are ways in which we can facilitate or hinder a little bit the crawling activity. So if, for example, the code is a little bit bloated, if there are elements that Google doesn't particularly appreciate, as in, for example, page speed, broken links, those things that kind of fall into the user experience side of using a website, because Google's aim is to give their clients the best possible experience. And that means giving them the websites that can give them the best experience. If a website is slow, Google will determine that it wouldn't be able to give a good user experience, so it will rank it lower. If a website has got a lot of broken links, it's kind of giving a sort of shabby, less maintained feedback as a signal. So again, it's something that won't help the ranking that much. On the coding side, there are many technical things, and we're not going into technical, but there are definitely elements that can help. We go through a couple of the important ones in a little bit. The last element of the triangle are the backlinks. You might have heard the word backlinks. Those are links coming from third-party websites, so somebody else's website, and pointing to your site. And why do we care about these kind of things? Well, these work for Google as a sort of token of appreciation of your website. So it's like when you, for example, are looking to hire an accountant, and then you might start asking around, who are you using? Who's the best in your opinion? And you start getting some recommendations, because there are so many to choose from, and you start getting some people recommending some. if the recommendations kind of stick and the same person is being recommended sometimes, they start to actually make you curious and you want to have a chat. Same thing if somebody who's important to you is recommending this person, say, I don't know, your spouse, your family, somebody who's very close to you, then you can actually, yes, think that you want to have a chat. If somebody is important to me, thinks you're good, the inherited sort of trust works with recommendations. So the same happens with Google. So many websites to choose from. And if two websites have the same flawless code and the same very informative kind of content, Google will try to see which one is more endorsed, as in having more backlinks. And if some backlinks are important, like your family members referring to somebody, and for Google, that might be, I don't know, some sort of government, institutional websites that have a weight, then the domain trust, it's actually a word, trust will grow and Google will get to trust a website even more. Domain trust, I've simplified it with backlinks. It's not just backlinks. It kind of combines two elements, backlinks and the age of existence of a domain. Again, imagine with a new business that's just been launched, you don't immediately trust somebody who's just appeared. You want to see them around for a little bit. You want to hear what other people say about them, what kind of experience they had. And if things start to pile up, then you might trust them a little bit. Same thing happens with Google. Immediately, once a new website is launched, there is a sort of sandbox in which Google will temporarily hold the website so that they can actually see if it's a real thing, because there are so many websites being created every second, even for the sake of creating fake networks of links. So you might be receiving, for example, I do, even if I'm in SEO, daily unsolicited emails in which somebody is promising, I will get you on the first page of Google tomorrow. And as funny as it sounds, what basically they are trying to offer to you is buy my backlinks. So they have those IP farms with a lot of websites that have just been created for the sake of creating these fake networks of links, thinking that it still works. It used to work a long time ago. Now it is dangerous. And if we have time, we'll go a little bit into what sort of penalties, penalizations websites can get. And what are the consequences of doing certain things? So there are Google guidelines that tell us what can be done and what is forbidden, and creating these sort of networks, fake backlinks is something that is forbidden. So if we engage in these sort of activities, we are violating the guidelines. So link building is a very big and very difficult area to be looking at. So these three elements make the difference: how the site is coded, the content it has, and the links pointing to the site. And then now there is a massive wave that is coming towards us, which is AI. So many things seem to be changing, and some are. So out of all that theory, out of all that historical knowledge, how things have always been working, how are things going to be next? Will they remain the same? Are they going to change, and how? Now, let's go back through each of these pieces little by little. Now, first of all, you might see we're not talking about search engine as Google only, but we are opening up to other sort of search engines. You might have tried it yourself, when you're using ChatGPT, for example, and you are asking for some sort of queries, you are now also receiving websites as recommendations. OpenAI is owned 49% by Microsoft. So the search on ChatGPT OpenAI is wrapped around Bing, which we all used to completely ignore. And now it is kind of having a mark in our referrals, attribution sources on analytics. We might start spotting that. And what AI search does is not let people only search in a very prescriptive sort of way, but it becomes a more conversational sort of way. So there is more context given around something. I'm not just searching keywords, but I'm having a conversation with the tool, and the tool is giving me a specific bespoke result, which might be different from the one that somebody else has. With Google, results don't change that much, if not for a sort of geolocalized search. So if you're searching in different positions, if you're, for example, walking down the street and you move from a place to another, and you keep searching for the same thing, the results might vary a little bit with Google, but that's the extent of the differences. With AI, the results are kind of tailored around the query that you asked. So it's a broader context based. But the way these search engines work is kind of the same. So we don't have to start worrying, okay, now I have to learn how to optimize my website for Bing. I can't just do it for Google. I have to learn a brand new science. The things still pretty much work the same. You can track your Bing Search Console. There is a Google Search Console, and there is also a Bing Search Console, and we've now started using it for all the clients. But you will see that there aren't big differences in the way the sites are evaluated. The differences mainly come in this massive wave that is coming towards us because of the facility and the cheapness of producing content. It is now really cheap and easy for everyone to churn out content quickly. So decreasing of time, decreasing of investment. So people are becoming much more inclined in just releasing content out, and this is overflowing the internet. So there is a latest research that is saying that every second 3 new websites are being launched worldwide. If we stop for a moment and we count to 10, there's already a lot of websites that have been published. So this is kind of scary if you think of the library, the internet, the index, how flooded it is becoming with all of this massive amount of stuff that is coming up. And even in the little space that we all inhabit, we hear people all the time saying that they are creating content with AI, which is not necessarily bad, but it can have its downsides. As for the crawlers, well, what is the official position is that the crawl budget hasn't changed. What is the crawl budget? The crawl budget is a small amount of seconds. We are talking seconds. They are given for every website to be crawled. So Google won't give that much to crawl a website. There is a little amount of seconds. The crawler bot has got that available to crawl a role. If it doesn't make it in time to crawl the entire site in that amount of time, they will move on to the next site. There will remain parts of the website. They are not crawled, not indexed. So you might have heard no index, the index that refers to these kind of things. So they don't; those pages do not appear in the index. Not being crawled might happen also because of not having matched the crawl budget. That makes it even more important to kind of optimize your crawl budget. So content bloat is a thing, because these websites of ours, they keep accumulating content, hoarding content over the years, and we don't even realize, but we just pile up these things. And in the end, they start like little websites and then they become huge monsters. And we don't even know how this happened because we have kept on accumulating. This kind of content bloat doesn't help if it's left completely unchecked, because you waste some precious time that the crawler bot might be crawling really important things, and it's wasting time, maybe crawling some pandemic guidelines or things, events that have happened in the past and they're still somewhere on your website, and they're just wasting time. So one easy recommendation in this case is prune your website. Make sure that you're cutting everything that is not evergreen. So if some resources are not providing value today to the person who's finding it, like you're inviting somebody to join a webinar that you ran 6 months ago, that's useless. It doesn't point to any sort of value today to meet the user finding it, unless you're kind of giving a meaning. So you're explaining what the webinar was about. You're telling people the content that they can now learn out of that. You're kind of summarizing the main takeaways and so on. That's another sort of angle to the content. So make sure that the content that you have on the site is still really relevant and valuable and important. Otherwise, you're risking to waste some of these precious time not crawling the important stuff. And then there is the algorithm. How is the algorithm changing? Well, constantly. Since I've been doing this job, it has been changing all the time. And the algorithm updates are the bane of existence of our SEO's lives, because they do change all the time. In theory, if you're doing things right, without trying to cheat the system, it shouldn't be impacted that much. Even if you see that there has been a slight impact, it's clearly stated in the guidelines, so don't panic, because people sometimes just start changing things in a rush on the website, and that can be more harmful than good. So algorithm updates happen all the time. They tend usually to try and punish some things that are malpractice, bad practice. So like the panda, penguin, hummingbird, those were meant to punish some of the spammy techniques of the time. Now, at the end of March, they have released one update that has been unofficially called the unhelpful content algorithm update, because they have tried to hit all of these content created at scale or in an automated sort of way. So there are considerations as to how to deal with content. Here we go into how the SEO is changing now with these changes. And let's go through each of them one by one. The code. Well, the code inside hasn't changed that much. The fundamentals still matter. So I really recommend everybody with a website to become familiar as to how fast your site is loading. I put a couple of resources here, and I will send something as a follow-up, a couple of free resources that you can check to everyone attending. This is Google's own page speed test. So there are other tools that you can use, free ones like GT Matrix and so on. This is Google's own consideration, same as Lighthouse, for example. It will tell you how Google considers the loading speed of a website. This looks like a traffic light, red, amber, and green. Being green is kind of hard, it's kind of difficult. Being amber is the normality, but amber is a broad spectrum. So you have to understand if you are in the high green, in the high amber, so you're close to green, you're kind of nearly there, or if you're in the low amber and you're close to red, or if it is actually red, then it's definitely something that you do want to check. So, and it will give you two different sort of results. One is for mobile, one is for desktop, two scores that you can see how you're performing out of 100. So usually mobile is worse, but it is important for ranking, for user experience. We don't have patience to wait for a site to load. If we are on a bus and trying to check something in a small screen and that doesn't load, we close it and we jump into another website, and that's it. That's all of the chances that we give to websites. So it needs to load and fast, and there are ways, again, to influence that without going too much into technical details. Page speed mainly is made of two main factors. There is how the site is done. So if there are any sort of redundant things that can be minified, that can be made lighter, including images and so on. And the loading speed of the hosting solution, because on the hosting, on the server, you might be hosting thousands and thousands of websites, and that naturally slows the machine down. The very cheap hostings usually host a lot of sites on that. On the other hand, you have like your dedicated server with only a handful of websites on that, and that is more expensive, but it's as fast as you can get it because it has less load. Security is not a new thing. HTTPS protocol is the kind of encryption that it's not just for e-commerce websites. Nowadays, particularly if we see this site is not secure, we don't want to associate ourselves with that regardless, and Google won't even rank it very well. So it might be common nowadays that there are some mixed content on a website. Some resources, they are not HTTPS, and the site is kind of pointing to HTTP from other parts of the site. So that is something to keep an eye on, only to mention a couple of things. And finally, schema. Now, schema is funny because it's not new. I was checking yesterday. It was actually launched, I think, in 2011 or something like that. So it is 2020. It is really not something new, and it was created because the three main search engines at the time, Google, Bing, and Yahoo, because at the time we still had Yahoo, they realized, well, we are starting to have a lot of websites in the internet. Can we simplify our lives and decide a vocabulary, a shared vocabulary of a markup that will immediately tell us what the website is about? And there are so many different types of schema. I've added here some of the most common ones. There's one for restaurant and there's one for accounting. There are so many for medical services, medical treatment, medical conditions, organization, education, recipes. You know it. It's basically a little bit of code, JSON code that should be injected in the website, and it should immediately tell Google and the search engines what the site is about. The reason why this is becoming important is that AI tools, AI search tools are using it always more and more. So again, there are tools from Google, and I will send in the resources after the quick free validator that you can run on your, you can just paste your URL on that and free online. Immediately you can see if it's correct, if it's pulling anything. In most cases, if it's pulling anything, it might be something like web page that doesn't really tell anything to Google. So that is one of the things that you can actually make the life easier to the AI crawler bots and get ranked better in those cases. Content is the thing that has changed the most, because as we were saying, everybody and their dogs are churning all of these vanilla flavored, useless content every time, thinking I can just update my site with something. It's good. They say I need to keep the website updated. I will be publishing something. It's quick and easy. It doesn't cost me a thing. I will just do it. That doesn't work. It could actually get you penalized these days. So what works? Now, again, in the guidelines that Google is giving, and they're all available online, you can just check evaluator, quality evaluator, Google guidelines and find it. It's like 100+ pages. You will see what they value in this kind of content. And it's clear that they have actually explained that they value this thing that is EEAT, stands for experience, expertise, authority, and trust. So they will value something that is inherently human, because a machine cannot have experience, expertise, authority, and being trustworthy. They will value what is unique in your experience running that kind of business. And they will do it even more carefully in those industries that can actually make a big consequence if something false or fake has been published. They call it your money or your life: medical, legal, financial. Those are the industries in which, and we specialize in medical. SEO, we have been helping a lot of doctors. In particular, in these industries, we need to be given correct, factual, evidence-based, and original kind of information. And the way you can give a strong signal of your expertise, experience, is by giving your credentials, your titles, in the author pages, in the about. You can tell how you accumulated this knowledge over the time. And then you can share your approach, how you do these things uniquely. What is your angle? What is your approach? Because of what you have done. So case studies, for example, it's a way that cannot be replicated, because yes, AI can make some up, but that's definitely not going to help you. If you start from your expertise and experience and you put out what you have been treating and how, what's your angle, what in your experience works treating these kind of things, or supporting your clients with whatever kind of issue they have, if you're an architect, if you're a lawyer, whatever is your sphere of influence, you mention why you have come to the conviction that you need to do certain things in a certain way because of your experience. That is something that is invaluable on Google, and it doesn't exist. So Google will reward it. So effort, because doing things easily and quickly usually doesn't bring much. Accuracy, even typos, these kind of things. Originality, so don't just have something that everybody has for the sake of it. And your skill. They will be penalized if they're not. And the way you can use this content, because we used to have a lot of blogs, a lot of blog content on the site. Now, since the beginning of the year, Google is starting to deprioritize this type of content, giving a bigger emphasis onto the strong pages of the site, which are the ones that can move the needle even for you, because they can be your lead generation pages. So say, I don't know, your service pages, the pages that actually say what you do instead of the how, why, where, when, informative queries. The more transactional kind of commercial queries, that is your main pillar. informative content can develop around that as a sort of hub, as a sort of content cluster. So all of these nice little green lines here that you see, the links, they're actually the streets on which the crawler bots can go. Crawler bots will only go, if you think as a spider bot, in a web around those lines. So interlinking pages together and making it really strong, that core pillar, reinforced by this amount of links pointing to it and the supporting content pointing to it. Backlinks is again something that has been changing because so many websites have been created and even spammy ones. So in the March algorithm update, there was particularly an intention of punishing the websites that tend to exploit somebody else's authority in publishing content. So that is irrelevant. So people buying links on authoritative websites, a couple of big magazines have been hit as well because they didn't know that they were kind of outsourcing their content creation to freelancers. They were linking to resources that were not so genuine. So the magazines have been hit and they have claimed they didn't know about their freelancers' activities that led to nothing. But anyway, we need to be really careful. You probably have heard the white hat, the black hat, and the sort of gray hat. Black hat is what violates Google guidelines. White hat is what is allowed. In between, there is a little bit of gray areas, but they're still not allowed. So basically, it's black or white hat. Buying links is black hat. Acquiring, earning links is white hat. How do you earn links is with quality and effort. So making real content that changes the needle, say you're doing your research, you're publishing something that is kind of groundbreaking, innovative, something that doesn't exist, and then others will want to link to that automatically. Otherwise, again, effort and outreach. I don't recommend doing it at scale, but reaching out and making sure that you are in the radar of journalists and people who have podcasts, magazines. When they need somebody in that sphere, they can ask for your human knowledge and experience. That kind of falls a little bit into a sort of digital PR activity. And those are the healthy ways that you can acquire your links onto the website. Buying it, going through the shortcut will be costly in terms of penalizations, unfortunately. Now, the elephant in the room, AI overviews. You might have seen it, and I want to try and keep the time short because I want to leave you time for at least 15 minutes for questions, and we can keep talking after if some questions aren't answered. Pop me an email. I'm so happy to talk about these things. Now, AI overview, you will have seen it. This is a screenshot of one AI overview that we got for the agency, and you will say, oh, it's so flattering. Look how much space they've given, and they've said everything, and they've taken images from the website. It's so, you could be so chuffed. Yes and no, because yes, it gives you a lot of brand awareness. It gives you a big space or a small space, but it puts a spotlight on you. On the other hand, what happens is this is from Brighton SEO 1 month ago research, and it's still up there to be found. If you're curious, I can send you the link. The research shows that being featured with an AI overview can decrease your website traffic 30 up to 40%. Why? Because Google wants to kind of hoard all the traffic and not release it to the single websites, not let it go. So they've got you on that page and they're trying to give you a pre-digested little explanation, answer to your question. If possible, if that explanation is enough for you and you didn't need anything else, that's it. You save some time. You don't have to follow the link. You don't have to check and read the page. You got your knowledge. And nobody's checking your website. So this is the double-edged sword. Brand awareness, and at the same time, if the traffic is going low, is going down, this is the reason. It is impacting websites. So this is what still works, and we've gone through it coding-wise, backlink-wise, and content-wise. The final thing that I wanted to leave you with is knowing how you can measure if something actually works and who decides if it works or not. So let's start with the step-by-step processes, because people usually, they only care about the last step, which is I want money, I want conversions, I want inquiries, sales, patients into my practice, footfall into my venue. I want the final step. You can't get the final step if you're not getting the pre-ones. It's stepping stones. And in some cases, we need to see who decides actually what we can control and what we cannot. So let's say we're doing all of our SEO work. We've done it really well. We've done the best that we can do. Who decides that if it ranks or not? Google. So in this case, again, there is an element of impossibility to control and determine the outcome. But it's important to measure it and test it all the time, because SEO is a data-driven science. You need to measure and see if something works. If it doesn't, you change the approach a little bit and try a different, a slightly different route. So let's say it works and you get your keywords ranking. Top 10 used to be, now with AI overview taking so much space, and then there is the map pack and the carousel and the sponsor links. If we get like 5 blue links on the first page, we are happy. It used to be the safest place to hide a dead body, used to be the second page of Google, as the saying goes. Now it's becoming kind of the end of the first page. So we need to try and be up. So let's pretend that we've got this keywords ranking. We can measure it with SEO tools. We are up there. What this becomes is impressions, and this is automatic. It happens. If you're ranking, somebody will see your ranking on the screen. Google Search Console will prove it. You can measure it. Google Search Console, Google Analytics, they're free, so you can check it. It means that you can have eyeballs. Your result is being seen. Will it become a click? Will they choose you? Not necessarily. There is a human action, a human decision in here, which is your possible user. Because if they get to see your result, you're not alone. You're together with 8, 5, 6, depending on how many results, our other websites that they're seeing. They might choose to click on yours or on somebody else's. So here there is some user experience that is in between, and people may choose to be clicking or not. If they do, and you grow these clicks, then it's measured as organic traffic. So on Google Analytics, GA4 that we have now, you can measure the sources of acquisition of traffic, and it can be social media, it can be email marketing, it can be referral, or it can be search engines, which is called organic traffic. So, or paid if it's via ads. So if you have developed these clicks and you have developed this organic traffic, does it mean that they are becoming patients, clients, that they are inquiring? Not necessarily. Again, there is a human decision here, UX decision, as in, I've checked your site, I've read it, I've navigated it, I'm not inquiring, I don't trust you, I don't like you, I don't feel compelled. So there is a UX point, another checkpoint in here. If you get it right, then you will get the final inquiry, purchase, and activity. So to get to this point, which is the one that you monetize as becoming revenue from your website, you need inevitably to go to the previous steps. It's all measurable. If it doesn't happen, it can be backtracked with a little bit of reverse engineering and diagnosing which step the chain broke and seeing how you can improve it. Final thing, what can we do now? We can keep in touch, please. And there will be one of these every first Thursday. This was the second Thursday, but in the future, it's going to be every first Thursday. If you want to put it in the diary as a recurring thing, if you cannot join, you get a recording. The link will always be the same. We'll change the redirect to the future event, and the topic will be around your needs. So just let us know what you're curious to know more about. We'll send you an email asking what actually made you curious, what you want to know more about. We will build these things around you and what you want to know. There is a newsletter. You probably might have chosen, yes, I want to know more. In May, we'll be talking about content because it is kind of timely, and you will get it in the second, third, in this time week of every month. And then there is my email if you want to learn more. Final thing, if you haven't yet got an audit, we're running this for free. So it's not downloadable. It's something that is human-made by one of us looking at your website, giving you 1 hour of time, one-to-one undivided attention, telling you based on our experience what we think that your site should be doing better, which sort of advice, and there's a lot of value, and it's for free. So I stop sharing, and I hope you're still all alive. How was it? Do you have any questions? I'm sorry I overran slightly, as I usually do.
Thank you, Silvia. Maybe you can jump in with a quick question.
Please do.
Thank you for all the overview on the changes with AI. It was very interesting. I guess my question is on the content generation, because obviously you said that now because there are so many blogs, it becomes less important on a relative base, which I get. But for those that are still producing, is it okay to still use a little bit of AI to write, like, if you have the content that is yours, but you ask AI to make it nicer, to use the keywords you want, can you still do this, or is it penalized?
Absolutely. It can help you so much save time. That's the way we need to use it, as an assistant to save us time, to do a bit of core research, to maybe jot down the fundamentals, but then it needs you to humanize it. Take that raw piece of dough and make it something that is shaped around you. So with what AI is giving you, what is your angle on that? Do you agree on it or not? Say why. Do you think that things should be done in a specific way? Say why. So put your own unique experience and angle that nobody else can have because it's yours.
Got it. Thanks.
No worries. Helen, hi.
Hi, Sylvia. That was really informative. So sorry I was 5 minutes late. I just wanted to ask you, future subjects, I'd be more intrigued for a full delve into AI and into schema if you'd be happy to share that in the future.
Yeah, we can craft things around. I'll go for majority. So if people want to tell me a little bit what they're curious about, we will collect. We need to keep the level kind of basic. So if we need to go into more advanced, it's better if it's done in a sort of one-to-one basis, because if we're starting talking JSON and structured data, we might be slightly killing some of the attendees. So we need to make it that is as accessible as possible, but absolutely, or we can include it in some of the communications, newsletters. I'm really glad to get the feedback anyway.
Thank you. Sorry, it's a geek talking about what they want.
We get excited of some things that other people sometimes don't appreciate. Like I get so excited about, I don't know, rankings. I'm going to say, yeah, well, we need money, we need patience. So it's slightly different level of excitement. We still have 5 minutes. Anybody else who want to jump in and say what they liked, what actually struck, if there was something that you learned? Otherwise, I know Paul received some questions. We can go maybe through one of the people who couldn't attend, and they will be checking the recording after.
Actually, Sylvia, there's a couple of questions from Zara in the chat here, who asks, how do we know what we rank for in terms of keywords? Is it manual trial and error, or is there a tool?
Yes, there are tools, and the majority of the SEO tools are to be paid for. So say, for example, the biggest, the most famous is SEMrush. SEO ranking is kind of taking also a spot because they do kind of the same things and they cost, I mean, they do many of the same things and they cost less. Ubersuggest is free with a certain number of uses. So there's plenty of tools if you don't want to do it manually. Because what these tools will do is they will crawl the site and automatically update and give you a little bit of a thermometer how the ranking is improving based on the changes that you've done. You can do it manually, but it would take you much longer.
Okay, and the second question, is there a way of knowing if AI will use any data on our websites for their top answers? So you were talking about the overviews, I think was referring to.
Yeah, AI overviews. It is happening, and again, if you have tracking tools like these SEO tools, they will say if you got a ranking result and where it was from. So this ranking result is in the pack, in the local map pack. This is in the images. This is in the AI overview. So that will be specified in these tools.
Okay, that's all the questions we have in the chat. Couple of questions via email. If we've already got content on our site, what's the best way to update it for 2025 SEO standards without starting from scratch?
That's a good one. Yes, keeping it updated is some sort of regular good maintenance that we need to be doing, and you can schedule it to make it happen every so often when it works for you. But rechecking everything, seeing that it is still up to date, that no things have changed, that the dates and the data and the information is still valuable, and if anything, add something new that you have learned in the meantime. So if, again, expertise, they keep growing over time. So if you're talking about, I don't know, first-time mortgage in a certain situation, you might have developed some different other kind of case studies, and you can add them, and that adds a layer into that. So you're keeping it fresh, updated, relevant, and as much EEAT as possible in there.
Okay, one final question. Is there still value in backlinks in 2025, or should we focus more on content quality?
Both. It's a triangle, and not all, or if we want to think of, triangles aren't always the same sort of shape. We got triangles with sides, they're done in different ways. So you might have websites on different sort of platforms, I don't know, Wix, WordPress, Squarespace. So the technical coding side is different. You might have websites with content that is very different, or sites that have a backlink profile that is different. In any case, they need 3 sides. We can't do without one of the 3. So you do need to keep in mind if somebody can link to your site, and have it always as the back of your mind when your business is collaborating with others. Businesses are not islands, they collaborate with others, and websites shouldn't be islands, they should connect with other websites. But as part of your normal activities or as part of your marketing approach in doing intentional PR. So it's up to you if you're focusing more on content, if you're focusing more on backlinks, but you cannot stop doing it. You need to do it properly. And now I think the time is up, but please, if you do have anything else you'd like to ask, we'll be meeting again every month if you like. I really enjoyed this. I hope you really enjoyed it as much as I did. And yeah, we'll send you a recording so you can watch it again whenever you like. And I would be so curious to hear from you what you took out of this. Thank you all so much. It was wonderful to see you. Have a brilliant rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you,
everyone.
Sylvia. Bye.
Bye-bye.